Well, let's go ahead and start.
Yeah, I think we should.
I'd like to call to order the July 8th, 2021 regular meeting of the City of Webster Grove's Board of Zoning Adjustment. Tom, would you please take the roll call?
Okay, John Bursey,
Present.
BJ Popello,
Present.
Miriam Mellum,
Present.
Deborah Sahlberg,
Present.
and Tom Walsh, present.
I do want to apologize to those of you who are attending the meeting for the delay. It's sort of outside the board's control, but we'll try to move this meeting forward. The order of presentation tonight will be the city staff will present testimony regarding the facts of the request. The applicant will have the opportunity to present their request to the board and address questions, followed by those in favor of the application. And then we'll ask if there's anyone in attendance who is opposed to the application. The board will close the public session and open for board discussion and decision. The proceedings are recorded, so we ask you to speak clearly and speak one at a time. We will vote on your application tonight for a decision. Approval will take 4 out of the 5 board members' approval, and please try not to be redundant or repetitive in your comments. Tom, would you please read the powers of the relative to variances?
Okay, is that, I'm reading this.
Dan,
section
here,
in
Danny,
the,
there, Danny's put it up on the screen.
Okay. I've got a problem because I can't, I'll be honest with you, I can't read it because I can't
You do
find
it,
my
Debbie, if that helps.
Huh?
I can do it.
If you'll do
Okay,
it,
Mary,
I've
would you
just
like to
got this, I can't, that was what happened earlier to me with the cursor, and I can't figure out where my cursor went to get rid of this.
Okay, powers relative to variations. When
Yeah.
by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property as of September 20th, 1956, or by reason of exceptional topographical conditions or other extraordinary or exceptional situation or condition of a specific piece of property, which condition is not generally prevalent in the neighborhood, the strict application of the area regulations of this zoning code would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to or exceptional and undue hardship upon the owner of such property. The board is hereby empowered to authorize upon an appeal relating to such property a variation from such strict application so as to relieve such difficulties and hardships.
Thank you. Would Tom or Baron, would you please read the first docket?
Hey, Mary, I'm gonna let you read them because I can't get rid of this thing in the middle of my screen. I apologize.
Docket number 2350, a petition submitted by Brad Hagan, Moser Building Arts on behalf of Byron W. Moser III and Janet Ebo for an application for variance from section 53.043B5 of the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 17.67 feet, 65-foot north front yard setback in order to construct a front addition located 47.3 front property line. The property is located at 405 Yorkshire Place within the A1 20,000 square foot residence district.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, we go into holding pattern.
Madam Chairman, I'm on your line here now.
Thank you.
And
Good to see you. Good to see you, Mr. Billings.
sorry for the delay. It's a long story. You don't want to know about it.
We're ready for you to enter the exhibits for docket 2350.
Yes, Madam Chairman, before you in the packet that you have received from the from the city are exhibits 10 in number, and they are before you on the screen. And we introduce those into evidence, and we will be questioning staff members about the particular exhibits as we go through the presentation.
Thank you. Danny, would you please raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, and Danny, would you please state your name for the record, please?
My name is Danny Gendusa.
And you were employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes,
In what capacity?
as planner
And what are your duties as a planner for the city of Webster?
to administer and execute zoning regulations.
And through your work at the city of Webster Groves, you're familiar with the property at 405 Yorkshire Place, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And that is within the city limits of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
In what zoning district is that property located?
The property is located in the A1 20,000 square foot residence district.
And would you summarize for the board the applicant's request here this evening?
Yes, the applicant is requesting a variance of 17.67 feet from the required 65-foot north front yard setback in order to construct a front addition that will be located 47.33 feet from the north front property line.
What exhibit, I'm sorry, what sections of the Webster Code apply to this request by the applicant?
So the request is directly from section 53.043 in the front yard setback regulations of the A1 district, which states in subsection 5 that a dwelling that existed of September 20th, 1956 may be enlarged, provided the proposed addition does not extend into any required front yard setback a distance greater than the original dwelling structure. And that's sort of a reference then, because this is a corner lot, the actual minimum required front setback line is set by the existing front building line of the property next door. Except that because this property was built prior to 1956, closer to the street than the neighbor's house, it is allowed to remain in place, and any addition is simply required to be located behind the existing front building line of the house that was built in 1956. And the applicant is seeking to construct an addition that would extend in front of the existing building line.
I understand. Would you present to the board the additional exhibits that you have in the packet, please?
Sure. So existing conditions of the property is that the house was built in 1923. It is located at the corner of Yorkshire and Jackson Road. The lot has significant grade change, like across the south. And the property is located set rather far back from the front property lines. This property is located approximately 65 feet from Jackson Road. The other houses on the block are located further back, generally between 80 and 100 feet generally. There is an existing tuck under garage on the north end of the house. The applicant, their request relates directly to the existing tuck under garage and building a new garage in front of that. Here we have photos of the existing structure. At the top, we kind of see the view from Yorkshire Place's direction. The lower photos are from Jackson Road. We can see the existing tuck under garage on the side of the house as well. Here we have a view of the corner property from the street, identifying the existing location of the lot and the grading on the lot, as well as the houses alongside on that block that are nearly in line or behind the existing house on 405. Here I've got an aerial image of the southern side of West Jackson Road of the existing homes. You can see the existing front building lines of the existing homes. They're all set rather far back from the front property lines, but the subject property on the right-hand side, kind of outlined in purple, is actually already sitting approximately 20 or so feet closer to the front property line on West Jackson Road because of the angle of the street than the neighboring property. And then I'm going to kind of go through some of like the basic facts of what it is they are proposing. Because we have some newer members on the board, and we haven't gotten to do a training in a while, I'm going to suggest for discussion that the board might take up or might examine to determine whether variance should be granted. But I'm going to go through the proposed requested variance first. So here's a shot of the applicant's proposed site plan. The proposed addition is marked in red on the right side or north side of the existing house. Here is a slide showing the allowable building area for an addition on the property. Any addition is supposed to follow the same building line, extending no closer to Jackson Road than the existing front corner of the house, just following the curve of the street. So that's why it's got kind of a unique shape to the buildable area at 65 feet from the West Jackson Road. Here I wanted to display what the buildable area would be for a detached garage if the applicant chose to build a detached garage instead. The slide before kind of identifies where an addition, if they were to seek to do an alternate site plan for an attached garage, on the west side of the house, there could be sufficient room for a one car attached garage within the buildable area of the lot. Again, here showing that the required setback is 65 feet. The applicant is requesting a front setback of 47.33 feet from the front property line. Here I wanted to demonstrate the comparison of what this would look like from an aerial image. Again, the yellow lines are representing the existing front building lines and front setbacks of the properties on the block. Marked in red now on this slide would be what the applicant is proposing as their new front setback line in order to build a front addition. Here we have preliminary elevation renderings that the applicant has submitted in order to install a additional two-car garage tuck under the addition and porch in front. Here's an additional architectural elevation rendering. The green line is representing where the required front setback line, and the red line is identifying how what the applicant is requesting in order to have an additional two-car attached garage in front of the house. I'll go over, these suggested items that the board could take up for discussion when examining the request. And then if the matter or request does not address the items to the board's satisfaction, I would recommend that the board deny or modify the variance request. So the first item that I would suggest would be whether there are conditions of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, shape, topography, or other extraordinary conditions to this property that are unique from the conditions also faced by other lots in the neighborhood. To consider, if so, do these unique conditions cause insufficient area to construct a code compliant attached or detached garage or carport on the property? Whether there is a peculiar and exceptional practical difficulty or exceptional and undue hardship if a new garage is unable to be built on a property in general when there is an existing code compliant garage already on the property. To discuss whether it is a peculiar and exceptional practical difficulty or exceptional and undue hardship to be unable to accommodate a three-car garage rather than a one-car garage on a property. Whether it's a peculiar and exceptional practical difficulty or exceptional and undue hardship if a lot is not guaranteed to allow a garage at all. And also, if the above factors justify a variance from the minimum required front yard setback, that would be equal to the degree or number of feet that the applicant is requesting. That if you do find that there is a hardship, is the applicant's, the full extent of the applicant's request justified for a variance? Are there any questions from the presentation that I could answer?
Hearing no questions, Madam Chairman, the city would have nothing further, would introduce the evidence, into evidence, all exhibits that have been referred to by city staff.
I do have one question. If we could go back to the slide before, not the aerial, but the map. No, one more back, I think. Yeah. So the question I have is, there's this, where the brick patio is, it looks like there's a retaining wall or something. I'm not sure what that is.
Yes, that is a retaining wall on the back end of the house.
Okay, perfect.
Much of the backyard is sitting on a retaining wall.
Okay. Thank you.
Danny, I got a quick question. Repeat, does the house next door on Jackson, does it setback impact this lot in our thinking?
The neighbor next door would be impacted in that their front setback would also be affected if the applicant were to be granted this variance. They would then be able to hypothetically construct an addition that would could meet the average of the houses on its right and left side. The applicant's neighbor directly to the on the left-hand side has written a letter for the board to consider and is in attendance and wanted to request tonight as well.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Danny before we move on? Okay, who's here this evening for docket 2350?
I saw the applicant from Mosby. Brad, can you hear us?
I can hear you and I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, Brad, could you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Would you please state your name for the record?
Brad Hagan.
Okay. Go ahead and present your case, please.
So I am, and the homeowners are on here as well. I am, when I raised my hand, it was to talk to BJ's point of that retaining wall. And while there is a space in that particular area, that retaining wall is holding back, roughly 6-7 feet of developed, really their only developed space of backyard. So if we were going to add a garage in that particular area, we'd be encroaching on that particular space that will really eliminate most of their backyard at that point in time. The other portion of this is, and I know there is a one-car garage, but that one-car garage is really not serviceable to today's cars. The homeowner has had many issues in asking for the garage because of the last big snow, potential falls, and injuring herself in that process because they do not have any place to put their cars at this point in time on the property. So, the reason that we went this direction is it really seemed the only serviceable way to get them a functional 2-car garage on the property without just really dismantling the backyard space that they have now as a functional space.
So it looks to me like you have sort of a garage, but then you have living space above it. Can you describe the living space that's that's going to be above the garage?
So, the biggest challenge of putting this garage in, and if you look at the pictures from that side, was how do we tie this garage back into the house? And because it is subgrade, the basement level, putting that garage and tying it back in with the roof was also going to disrupt that room space. They did not come to us to do ultimately a room addition and space on top of it. It was really trying to find the best way to tie something back into the house that seemed to fit the area. The reason for the porch was to soften that so there was light going through that space at that point in time, not bringing the addition all the way out. It does extend probably what was a screened-in porch area at some point in time, and increases that room size there on that end, being the right side of the house, the right elevation from that front picture.
Okay, thank you. Are the homeowners, do the homeowners wish to speak in this case?
Yes, the homeowner is raised their hand.
Okay,
Are there any other questions for Brad? Because I would be sending him back as a listener rather than
all right. Are there any other questions for Mr. Hagan from the board?
No.
No.
All right.
we will bring over Janet Ito, the homeowner.
Miss Ebo, could you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I can't hear her.
Janet, can you hear us?
She's muted.
Janet, can you unmute your screen?
Okay, now can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Janet Eto.
Thank you. Do you want to describe your make your case?
The reason we want to have the two-car addition is so that for safety reasons, our physical safety. I'm going to be 70 next year, and this last winter when I was cleaning off my car, I slipped like 5 times trying to get my car cleaned off. And that was just a really good reminder of where I am in my age. And so safety reasons are the first reason. And the second is for the security of our vehicles, is to be able to put them away at night and have them more secure. So just knowing that I'm going to be in my 70s, my husband is 70, and we hope to be in this home for quite a few more years, and being able to get into our cars in a garage and pulling out in inclement weather, especially icy and snowy weather, is a big factor for us.
Debbie, I would also like to comment if I could.
Is this,
Mr. Moser.
would you please raise your right hand? And
Yes,
repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And please state your name for the record.
Byron Moser III.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding the possibility of building in the backyard, that retaining wall that was asked about before is actually about 10 feet tall. And you'd have to excavate basically a good chunk of the backyard to get a garage back there. We looked at that as an option, and it really didn't make any sense to either the builder or to us. We do have the 1-car garage that we get a small one, and I'll try not to be repetitive. We do have a small car in there, and you have to park it very carefully and can only get out of one side of it. It was not our intent to add the screened-in porch or room addition, but the only way it made sense architecturally is to expand it a little bit. Janet and I have looked around at other houses, looking for a 2 or 3-car garage. We love our neighborhood. We love our neighbors. We've been there for close to 25 years now. And frankly, we don't want to move. We like Webster so much, and we just like to expand our footprint to take care of our needs. We've been good neighbors to everybody in the neighborhood, I think, and pretty good Webster residents. So we'd ask the board to consider our variance seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any board members have any questions for either of the homeowners?
No.
No.
Are there any? Okay, so moving on, are there any parties opposed to docket number 2350?
You have one hand raised, and I will promote them as a panelist.
Okay.
It looks like Jackie McCrary is on the line. Can you hear us, Jackie?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes. Jackie, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name again for the record.
Jackie McCrary.
And you have comments?
I do, yes. And I should say my husband is here as well, Jonathan McCrary. So thank you for hearing us tonight. We appreciate that. And I think I want to start by sort of corroborating what Ron just said, that he has been a really good citizen of Webster Groves. They are wonderful neighbors to us. We're the next door neighbors of the house that's on the West Jackson side. And frankly, we are close with them, right? Like we have keys to each other's houses. When they're out of town, we water their plants, we feed their fish. When we're out of town, they take care of our dog. They've helped with kids before. And so I think ultimately we're not trying to create a neighbor war here. And I'll also say this, we have had this discussion with Ron and Janet in person. So this is not like an ambush situation where they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? The neighbors are, making these comments. Like we've already discussed our concerns with the project. That being said, we feel really strongly that this really negatively impacts our property. And so because of that, that's why we're here tonight. Like, again, we don't want to start a neighbor war. And I think if we didn't feel so strongly, we would not be on this call tonight. We looked through the application, of course. And so I think one of the things listed in the application was it described our situation as quote unquote, neighbors to the north think the addition will impact their street view. And to an extent, this is sort of what one of our issues is, although I would say this somewhat minimizes our opinion. I sent a letter as well that had some pictures attached. I don't know. Oh, sorry, Exhibit 10. So I don't know if you all had a chance to look at that, but as you can see, we live on a hill, and I'm not sure, it's pretty obvious, I think, from their artist rendering the picture, but we live on a hill, and so when they construct this large addition, it's going to end up being 2 stories effectively, because they're going to follow the roof line. Yeah, you can see from their house, the picture right there, they're going to follow the roof line of like that bottom version of the roof. Okay, so they're going to build this really
Can I
large.
stop you for just a second? So are you this house behind? Like,
We're the
I
house.
don't know if you can see the picture. or
With the
not?
gamble roof?
Yes, that's us. We're the house that, yeah, is if you're looking at their house in this picture, we're the one to the right.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, of course, that's fine. Yeah, it's good for you to know which house we are that's actually opposing this thing. So anyway, if this were to be built, this large, like kind of 2-story structure, from every single front window in our house, we would no longer be able to see up West Jackson anymore. So our only view would be of the addition. And as well, if we were sitting on our front porch, which you can't see very well in this picture, but we have a front porch, and we also would not be able to see up West Jackson. Okay, we understand completely that we do not own any views. No one owns views. It'd be nice if we did, but we don't. So we get that piece. I think our issue becomes a safety issue for our own children. So we have 2 kids who are under age 10. I don't know if you all have kids or grandkids, but ours love to ride their bikes, ride their scooters, ride their rollerblades, and they are constantly doing it up and down the street. There are tons of kids on our street. So on West Jackson alone, there are, if I've counted correctly, there are 15 kids under age 13 on our specific block. And then if you include the kids who are on Yorkshire, it brings the total to about 29 kids who are under age 13. And I don't know if you guys have driven down West Jackson, it is a zoo. Like they're constantly outside, they're running around, they're playing, they're riding vehicles. I cannot tell you how many times I've sat on our front porch and essentially just have been the referee for when a car comes. So I'll scream car, and then everyone skitters out of the street, and then it's like, okay, go back, and then they can go back to playing. And so because of where our house is on the hill, we are able to see up West Jackson if a car is coming down the street. If you're down at the bottom of our street, at our driveway, you can't see as well. And so that's why it's really helpful for an adult to be sitting at the top yelling, like, car, get out of the way. And so it really scares us that we would lose the ability to do that. Additionally, as you can see from, because it would be blocked. As you can also see from one of the pictures I sent, it's going to essentially, if the addition is built, it's going to block our house from view. And so I think one of our biggest concerns is that, again, we live on this hill. Kids are my own kids, other kids are constantly in my driveway. They're constantly like riding their vehicles down the driveway. And our worry is that because this addition is going to block about half of our driveway, we worry that our kids won't be able to they won't be able to see if a car is coming. So maybe not stop in time before the car. And if a car is coming down the hill, it potentially won't be able to see a kid coming down the driveway because he will be behind the addition. I don't know how familiar you guys are with West Jackson, but we sort of joke that it's part of the Webster 500 because we get cars just racing down our street. They use it as a cut through from Rock Hill to West Jackson. We have called the police, Rock Hill to Lockwood. We have called the police multiple times. We have had a speeding thing set up on our street. We've had police come and sit and watch for speeders. Like speeding is an issue. We've asked for stop signs at the corner of Yorkshire. They would not grant those to us. We've asked for speeding bumps. They would not do it. And so it's just, we already have a safety issue with speeding on our street. And so to add one more structure that's going to inhibit both our ability to warn our kids and other cars' ability to see our kids is really, really scary for us. So I think essentially like, that's why we're on this call. Like, I don't want to oppose Ron and Janet. I love them. They're wonderful neighbors, but our own kids' safety just takes precedence over that. And additionally, the safety of all these other children. Like, and we live in a blessed neighborhood where everyone likes each other and they get along. And so there's just a lot of kids and safety is an issue for us. I think another thing, and I think you can see this best from the pictures that are above looking down, is just that our houses are at weird angles to each other. So our houses do not form a perpendicular angle. The Moser's house, because it's in line with the houses on Yorkshire, is essentially tilted towards ours. So when they build this addition, obviously going with the line of their house, that's going to make the addition pointed towards our house. And so it feels unusual, I think, and it feels like an unusual circumstance, right? I think most houses that are on a corner like this would be perpendicular to the house that's next to them, but that's not the case with ours. And so we wonder just about the aesthetics of that, like having a house kind of jut out into our yard. I also want to say this, like, we are not opposed to them building another garage. I think there's a beautiful example of a house at the corner of Baker and Loxley, which is in Sherwood Forest. That's our neighborhood. And they built just a 1-car garage that comes off of essentially the corner like the Mosers have. And it looks beautiful. And so I think our issue is that granting a almost 20-foot variance is a really big deviation from the zoning code, right? I was looking at the items that are on the docket for the rest of this meeting, and one of them is requesting a 2-foot variance, one's requesting a 1-foot variance. But I think once you get into double digits, once you get close to 20, that's a really, really significant change to the current footprint. And so I guess I talked with Danny a little bit yesterday, and I was trying to understand, like, what is the purpose of these zoning codes? And, you know, he said, as you all know, it's really complex, but I think one of them is to just preserve the aesthetics of a neighborhood. And so I think to get into double digits, almost 20 feet of a deviation, like that is maybe not preserving the aesthetics in the way that we would imagine the zoning codes are put in place to do. And then just finally, I think I understand their need for parking. So Ron and Janet have 4 cars between the 2 of them. And I think that they need parking for those 4 cars. But I guess our point would be, is the hardship that's brought by their physical condition, is it mostly related to needing more garage space for 4 cars, right? So there is actually, there's only 1 house on our West Jackson Street that has a 3-car garage, and there's only 1 house on Yorkshire that has a 3-car garage. So this is not necessarily the norm. It's not like getting a 3-car garage is going to get them caught up to everyone else. And then just to speak to the point on like parking their cars outside and safety, essentially every single one of us on the street have at least 1 car that we park outside because we live in Webster, right? Like we all have weird garages and we all have weird situations. And so anyway, I don't feel like the request is maybe trying to meet what's happening on our street. I think that, it is a lot bigger than it needs to be. And honestly, like I said in the beginning, just safety for our own kids is our #1 concern. And I hear Janet's point about safety in inclement weather. Like I think I fell this past winter too when we had all the snow and was trying to clean off my car. I think especially, you know, as my husband's parents are aging as well, they're in their 80s. One of the big things we see for them is like needing to be able to navigate stairs. And I feel like in terms of inclement weather, Ron and Janet already have a garage that then leads to interior stairs in their house. And so in terms of safety, I think having interior stairs is something that they already have that could be better than if they didn't have a garage at all, right? And they had to use exterior stairs to get to the main level of their house. So that's all I have to say. Like I said, we are not opposed to something on a smaller scale. The scale of this project just seems really, really big and seems outside the norms of what our neighborhood has in terms of garage space.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in opposition to docket number 2350 who'd like to speak?
The applicant has raised their hand again to speak. It would be up to the board to.
I'd like to talk to the Mosby representative, if I could.
Since the homeowner has raised their hand, I'll put them on first, but we can also bring back.
Okay, so is this Mrs. McCary again, or is this Mr. McCary?
This is Janet.
Okay.
I'm moving her over. But I think Janet and her husband.
Oh, Janet, the homeowner. Okay, all right.
Janet or Ron, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes. Remember, you're still under oath.
Yes. Speaking to a couple of points that Jackie made, we do have 4 cars, 2 are small and 2 are SUVs. Our SUVs will not fit into the existing garage, and the small car barely does. And we are looking for garage spaces for our SUVs. And so even if we didn't have 4 cars, we would still be looking for garage space for our 2 SUVs. Okay. The other thing about, I understand that there are a lot of little people on our neighborhood, and that's one of the things that keeps us there is the young families and their children. Of all the neighbors that we spoke to, the two across the street have 5 kids between those 2 families, and the neighbor across the street on Yorkshire Place has 2 sons who are older, they drive. And they are supportive of our plan, and they are not concerned about the safety issues. If you look at the picture of the house, our house from the corner of West Jackson and Yorkshire, you'll see that there are 2 large dogwood trees that if you stand or sit on the McCrary porch, it blocks part of the view of West Jackson also. And our addition is not going to be 2 stories. The roof line will meet the 2nd story sun porch there. So it's not a 2-story structure. And if you're coming down West Jackson, there are 2 trees just before the intersection of West Jackson and Yorkshire that block the view of our house as well as the McCrary house until you get to about the corner of Yorkshire Place. So, and I would ask that if the view is changed for the kids coming down the driveway, that I would ask that Jonathan and Jackie re-educate their children about going down the driveway and just exercise more caution as they come down that driveway and stop maybe halfway and look both ways and then proceed to the bottom of the driveway. I know the kids like to go to the top of the driveway and ride down as fast as they can, cross the street up and cross into the driveway across the street. And that is a really fun activity, but again, they could change the safety rules and requirements for their children. So, but we have not heard these safety concerns expressed by the neighbors across the street from us who have children that are about the same age and younger than Jackie and Jonathan. So, do you have anything else?
No.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the homeowners?
No.
BJ, had you wanted to speak with the builder?
Correct.
I'll see if he's still on the line. Okay, and this is Brad.
Remember, you're still under oath. Okay, go ahead, BJ.
So, Brad, are you there?
Brad's still muted. He needs to unmute himself. There.
I'm here. Sorry. It pushed me out and it's pulled me back in. I've got my video off, but it's pulled me back in. You guys.
Did you get the email with the letter and the pictures from the neighbor?
We never received the letter with the email, or sorry, with the pictures or the letter.
Well, then maybe my question's better off served to Danny. Danny, so if you look at the first picture, it's IMG_0166-1.
I can grab the photo short.
So this is the picture of the 2 driveways.
Right, the 2 driveways, and then it's got these chairs, which is referenced in the letter.
Sure. I see the photo.
You've got, so is that an accurate rendering of, I mean, obviously it's not going to be perfect, but I mean, is that about what we're looking at as far as the extension? Because they've got 2 chairs and there's rope that goes around. I mean, I'm not sure how that happened in the first place, but I mean, is that what we're really looking at?
To be honest, I can't tell from this photo. I don't know who placed the tape or chairs.
Right, because from your photo, or if not your photo, but your rendering, it didn't look as,
That area looks larger than the renderings and site plan.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
would
that-
say.
I'm not sure.
right.
Does anybody have an electronic version of this that they can show what's the exhibit? Because we didn't get it. The homeowners, I don't think they
I can email it to
received
you.
it.
If that's all right, by the city attorney, I'll email this if you got an email.
I think
That are
that
coming from the city.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
were there any other questions for the builder for Mosby?
I would like to, I guess, to sort of hear maybe a recitation, or can you state like what exactly the peculiar or exceptional practical difficulties are here, like what the undue hardship is?
The fact that there's no other place to put a garage scenario on this lot is the real challenge, right? The highest point is in the back left corner. It slopes down the entire way. You know, taking out that retaining wall, and if we did a garage, like the neighbors behind are suggesting, like the one up the street, and just do it as a 1-story, people would be able to crawl on that roof because it would be about a foot off of the ground from the high side, and talk about a safety concern. That could be an issue. This is the reason why this creeped into a larger addition, to make it appropriately attached to the house and have an appearance that, quite honestly, right, if we get the variance, we still have to go to Architectural Review Board and meet some of those criteria as well, and lipstick on a pig isn't going to go through there. So we were conscious of this view the entire time, though, with leaving that porch open, not bringing the addition all the way out, still trying to provide some kind of airiness to this scenario. We didn't go the roof all the way up. We put a flat roof on top of it, so it wasn't going up as high. This is a 1-story addition that happens to have a basement underneath it, which happens to be a garage. It also is a unique scenario because it is a corner lot, and we're asking for variance not out the front. And I know Webster, I'm a Webster resident as well. You know, it's that house is viewed differently because it is a corner lot and it has 2 front yards per how it is defined by Webster Groves.
Well, except that there's lots and lots of corner lots in Webster Groves, so that's not a unique situation.
Well, it's unique to every corner lot, and the way that
Well,
they put this house.
It's not unique to the city of Webster Groves.
That's not. But the house location is also shifted and very far to the back and in the corner. It's just limiting. If that house was in a different location, there's potential to put, in different elevations, put a garage in the back. It just doesn't work with this particular scenario. So the hardship is the fact that we can't put it anyplace else. And really, the existing garage it's non-functional. I mean, yes, they pull a car in it, but I mean, you can barely get out of the thing. So.
And I have a question for
Go ahead.
Brad. Yeah, I'm curious, Brad, did your firm actually study placing this addition on the west side out of the setback per what staff presented as one of 2 alternatives? And I'm curious if you studied that and actually looked at it.
We did. We presented that and looked at it and looked at the cost and dealing with the wall and removing the air conditioner, encroaching on the patio, again, having to put a 2nd-story addition on that, or not a 2nd story, but an addition above because of the roof scenario basically being it'd be an earth home on the backside.
But you could build the same program to the west side. It could be 2 stories and expand the living space just as it is in your proposal to the west. You're saying this was not the direction to go in because it costs more.
Costs more in the encroachment on the backyard. I mean, look what that would do to their backyard space.
It looks like even following Danny's green line here, a substantial portion of the backyard would be preserved. If you were to literally follow that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much backyard there percentage wise. It is a cost scenario from us, from a viewpoint of us looking at that project and creating something that can be installed there and retain that wall correctly and disturbing that earth. It was getting cost wise to a point of over the other option, as well as it was personal preference on the homeowner's part, right? Of what the disruption was to the living space in that scenario. We've researched it, we have looked at it. It's not that we haven't seen that.
Yeah. May I ask what the cost difference was?
At the end of the day, range wise,
Right.
probably another $60,000 to $80,000. But I think it was more our concern too about the excavation and dealing with that wall that's there and what it's holding up, because it is a significant piece of the yard. And beyond, right? I mean, it's holding up the next yard as well in a lot of ways. It all just kind of slopes right down through there.
And is
So you've
that,
answered my questions. I think we're good unless anybody else has anything.
Maren?
yeah, so is that green area the only place in the property where a garage would be allowed?
If it were to be attached to the house, then yes. There's also a possibility of a detached structure, which could be located in the backyard area.
Is there a picture of that property, like an actual photo of that piece of the land?
There may be in your hard copy. I don't.
Okay.
Slide.
Can I just say that the green space that is there now is 10 feet above the driveway.
Right.
So it's really not a,
And then
Can't
there'd be
access it
exactly
from-
no backyard.
Well. Okay, does anyone have any additional questions, Maren?
Yeah, I have one more, sorry. For the variance, it's required whether the addition is just like the earth level garage or including the space above it. Is that correct?
Yes, both. Any of the structure that would be extending in front of the green line, they both require a variance.
Okay, thank you.
So portions of sort of like the garage as well as the living space are encroaching beyond the setback.
And I just have one final question for Brad, and that would be, what if they didn't do the upper portion and it was just a garage? Would that affect the aesthetics? Like, what are we looking at on that?
I think it definitely affects the aesthetics. I mean, we'd have to see if the homeowners are looking at entertaining something of that nature. Also, I think my biggest challenge with it has always been the next step of this is, will that make it through architectural review? And that's why we presented it this way. I think it is something that is appealing to how it attaches to the house. I think if you just put the 2-car garage with a roof on and what it disrupts on that end, it can be done. I don't know what we've been challenged with what it looks like every time we put that roof on there and what
Okay.
the effect of it is. But that's really, and we did explore that and we put it on there and tried to work that, but it just, from a visual standpoint, it was not extremely appealing.
All right, that's all the questions I have.
Okay, is there any other questions from the board? If not, I think we need to close the public session and open this for board discussion. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken who'd like to speak, or any other questions from the board? Hearing none and seeing none, let's close the public session and open it to board discussion.
So moved.
So does anyone want to start off this discussion?
Sure, I will. I think that this is a reasonable, it's definitely a hardship. There's nothing they can do with that backyard to place a garage. I mean, they would have to just tear most of that out. It would probably be more offensive to the homeowner to the next side. Actually them, even if they actually did that, pulled all that dirt out and all of that. The garage, I mean, it just seems reasonable to me. Now, the question I would throw out there is, do they have to do the the second extension, or can they just do this 2-car garage?
That's kind of
So that's sort of my thought.
I'd like to play devil's advocate and point out that they're not necessarily entitled to a 2-car garage on this property. You know, this house has, you know, been in existence for many, many years without a 2-car garage. And there are certainly many, many houses in Webster Groves, big houses and little houses, that don't have 2-car garages.
I think another factor here is, first, the topography, and the backyard is mentioned. But this is a corner lot. It slopes pretty dramatically. I don't know the percentage of the slope. And if an addition is going to be made, I would agree with the previous comment that there's enough hardship here. At least they've explored trying to put something in the backyard, which would take most of the backyard. And I would be worried about the retention wall back there. I think it's sort of superfluous whether people can or cannot have 2-car garages. Webster Groves has a problem with garages, but that's neither here nor there in a lot of cases. But to me, what they're trying to do with the hardships they have makes sense.
Well, I think it's relevant in as much as, is it a hardship to not have a garage? And I know, you know, the board has struggled with this in, you know, practically every session. And I think I sort of am sympathetic to the idea that a garage is not a luxury. And so I can see the argument, you know, that can be a hardship to not have it. But I'm sort of where BJ is does that mean, and you get the additional living space as well, particularly when you have, you know, it is a large variance, like the neighbor pointed out, we're, you know, at almost 20 feet, and there are neighbors that feel impacted. I mean, to me, that weighs on me.
I think it's an exceptional variance, and one that, if granted, will upset the continuity of the front yards protected by that setback, which is a shared amenity for all residents in that neighborhood. From what I heard in the testimony, the only hardship here is the cost delta of putting that garage alongside or set into where that retaining wall sits. And the testimony was clear from the contractor that it's a financial one. I'm not reading anything here other than that. If that garage were built on the west side of the building, you would be replacing that retaining wall with basement wall that would do the same job. And at the same time would keep that added program, which is at the owner's discretion, from upsetting the continuity of that front yard setback along Jackson. So I'm really not swayed by it. I don't see, unique conditions here other than what the contractor stipulated. It's going to cost his client more money.
Would anyone care to make a motion regarding?
I'd like to say one other thing. I do
Okay.
think it's a corner lot. And the house is set back. If the house had been originally built closer to Jackson and the street that it's on, it's possible this discussion wouldn't be happening. But of course, the house was built in 1923. So to me, that adds a uniqueness to the circumstances of this variance. And I'm looking at my notes. If the variance is granted, that looks like it puts it 47 feet back from the street plus the city easement down there. So it's not putting it right on the street.
But it will be putting it out there like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I would be putting it out there 17 more feet. Yeah, 17, 18 feet. No question about that.
And I definitely think, in terms of what staff presented, there are options that don't destroy the whole backyard. They just cost a little bit more.
I don't see that. I think that, I mean, if you're gonna add $100,000 to pull out all this dirt and whatever, and then take up the entire backyard, I mean, I see that as an undue hardship for certain.
It doesn't take up the whole backyard, though.
Well, we can agree to disagree on that.
Yeah.
Would anyone care to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the variance as written.
And I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. No.
No,
No.
Okay, Marion,
Okay,
would you like to poll the commission?
Okay, John Bursey,
it's Burse, Tom.
Burse, I'm sorry.
How did you vote,
How
John?
did you vote, John?
No,
Okay, BJ Papello,
Yes.
Marion Millum,
No.
Deborah Stahlberg,
No.
Tom Walls, yes.
This application has failed. The applicant may see city staff during regular business hours about their next step or options. Marion, do you want to read docket 2351 into the record?
Yes, I do. Is it gonna be, is this, I'm sorry, 2351, is that where we are?
Yes.
Getting a slide, or am I pulling it up here?
Can you see the screen? It's on the screen.
Oh, no, I can only see you.
Okay,
All right, give me just 1 second.
sure.
I can read it if you want me to.
2351, a petition submitted by Jan Peterson, Kalina Property LLC for an application for variance from section 53.063C2 of the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. Requesting a variance of 2.02 feet from the required 5-foot north side yard setback in order to structurally alter and convert an existing enclosed front porch into an unenclosed front porch located 2.98 feet from the north side property line. The property is located at 121 Hull Avenue within the 10,000 square foot residence district.
Thank you. Does the city have a case?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I would produce the evidence of Danny Gendusa. Are you ready, Danny?
Yes.
Okay, you have been previously sworn this evening and you're still under oath. Would you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Danny Gendusa.
And you're employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And you're employed as a planner for the city, is that correct?
Yes.
What are your duties as a planner for the city of Webster Groves?
You administer and execute zoning regulations.
Through your work with the city, are you familiar with the property at 121 Hull Avenue?
Yes, I am.
Is that within the city limits of the city of Webster Groves?
It is in Webster Groves.
And the zoning on this particular property is?
It is zoned A3, 10,000 square foot residence district.
And would you please advise the board as what the applicant has requested in this variance?
Yes, the applicant is requesting a variance of 2.02 from the required 5-foot north side yard setback in order to structurally alter and convert an enclosed front porch into an unenclosed front porch, which be located 2.9 feet from the north side property.
And what is the applicable zoning regulation at issue, please?
It is section 53.063 subsection C2 in the side yard setback rules, which states that residential structures existing as of September 20th, 1956, which are closer to the side property line, 8 feet, may be enlarged, provided any addition is no closer to the side property line than 12% of the lot width of the front yard setback. This subject property is narrower than the minimum lot width, and the existing house is located closer than 8 feet to the side property line. The width at the front yard setback, 12% of that is feet. And so any type of addition or alteration on that north side have to be located at least 5 feet from the side property line.
Okay, and would you go through the city's exhibits, please, for the board?
Sure. So shown above is the boundary and improvement survey for the property. The house was built in 1924 on the corner of Hull Avenue and Brainerd Place. The existing house was built 2.98 feet from the north side property line. Additions, alterations should be located at least 5 feet from the side lot line. Shown above is a photo as viewed from Hull Avenue of the existing enclosed front porch area. It was enclosed at some point. That the enclosure is not original to the house, but it was enclosed at some point. And the applicant is seeking to alter the existing enclosed non-conforming porch. It's located directly in line with the house. Closer than 5 feet from property line, they're seeking to reopen it to make it an open air front porch. Here we can see sort of the outline of the existing porch marked in red. They're seeking to alter. In lines on the survey, I've marked in red where their requested setback of 2.98 feet is located, and where the green line represents where standard minimum 5-foot setback. Shown above again on the front elevation is showing the requested in red and the required area in green. Suggested items of discussion for the board, whether there are conditions of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, shape, topography, or other extraordinary conditions to the property that are unique from conditions also faced by other lots in the neighborhood. If so, do these unique conditions cause a peculiar and exceptional practical difficulty or exceptional undue hardship by not allowing the full extent of the existing enclosed porch to be altered and reopened? Do the above factors justify a variance from required side yard setback that is equal to the degree or number of feet that the applicant is requesting? If the applicant request and the subject matter does not address the above items to the board's satisfaction, staff would recommend that the board vote to deny or modify the variance request. Could I answer any questions from the board?
Danny, I have a question. Is the current front porch in the easement or in the side yard setback?
Yes, it is. It's just built in line with the side of the house, and the house was built in the 1920s, about 3 feet from the side property line. So yes, the existing enclosed porch, shown here on the right-hand side of the porch, is currently, too close to the side property line.
So the property owner is not going to increase the size of the space.
Correct. They would just be replacing it in its current location with an open air.
Okay. And is this lot, this lot is smaller than, I noticed it's 44.50 feet
Yes, it is.
wide. Is that,
It's narrower than is required in the zoning district.
yeah.
Don't know its exact size off the top of my head, but I believe it's an undersized lot. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions for Danny?
Nope.
Okay, Madam Chairman, we would move the introduction to evidence what's been previously marked as exhibits 1 through 7 and contained in your packet. And that would conclude the city's case at this time.
Thank you very much. Is the petitioner for docket number 2351 here?
They are. I will move them to panelist now. Mr. Alexanderson, can you hear us?
You need to unmute yourself, Mr. Alexanderson. Lower left-hand corner. Thank you. Could you please raise your right hand and do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please state your name for the record and proceed with.
My name is Jan Alexanderson, and I'm here with my wife, Marisol Alexanderson, who designed.
And can you describe the project and why the variance is necessary?
So we just want to open the front porch to how it was from the beginning. And the front porch was closed, I think, in the end of 80s, beginning of 90s. And it's not a very nice job. So we're not requesting to increase the footprint. We just want to open up the enclosed front porch.
Okay, thank you. Does any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Alexanderson?
No.
No.
Okay, this is fairly straightforward. So is there anyone else in attendance who'd like to speak in favor of docket 2351?
I do not see any.
Are there anyone in attendance who is opposed to docket number 2351?
I don't see any other.
Okay, hearing none and seeing none, we'll close the public session and open this for board discussion.
I'll start with saying, I think this is a completely reasonable request. They're not changing the footprint whatsoever. All they're doing is beautifying this. And the undue hardship, if I had to go with one, is that they're on an extremely small lot, but they're not changing anything of any size or nature other than to beautify it. This is a win-win for everyone.
And the
I'd also point out that the house, that this lines up with the house. And as BJ said, the porch is non-conforming, so this is not increasing the non-conformity. I'm
Great.
sorry, I interrupted you, Tom.
No, it's already in the easement, like I said before. I think the abnormality of the lot, it's so narrow. And sometimes we get people who they want to add 2 or 3 feet on each side. All these people are doing is eliminating a porch and making a deck or patio or what have you.
Yeah.
Any other board comments?
To play out the opposite, and I agree with everything that's been said, by the way, this seems like a no-brainer, but to play out the opposite, to make it conforming, they'd have to take 3 feet off the porch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd make a motion to approve this as written.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Tom, would you poll the commission?
I shall. John Burse, right?
Yes, thank you, Tom. That would be a yes.
And BJ Papello,
Aye.
Miriam Mellum,
Maren Mellum, yes.
Deborah Sahlberg,
Yes.
and Tom Walsh is yes.
Your application has passed. You may see city staff during regular business hours about your next step or options. Next step. Would someone please read docket 2352 into the record?
Sure. Docket 2352, a petition submitted by Jim Hentz, Patriot Sunrooms, on behalf of Orville Biddendorf for an application for variance from section 3.073C1 of the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 1 foot from the required 6-foot south side yard setback in order to structurally alter and replace an existing rear sunroom located 5 feet from the south side property line. The property is located at 14 Turf Court within the A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
Thank you. Does the city have a case?
Yes, Madam Chairman, we would present the testimony of Danny Gendusa, please. Danny, are you available?
Yes.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Danny Gendusa.
And Danny, you are still under oath from your previous oath this evening. You are employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes.
And you are a planner for Webster, is that correct?
Right.
What are your duties as a planner for the city of Webster Groves?
Mr. and execute zoning regulations.
Excuse me. And through your duties as a planner for Webster Groves, are you familiar with the property at 14 Turf Court?
Yes, I am.
And that is within the city of Webster Groves, is it not?
Yes, it is.
What is the zoning district that it's located in?
In the A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
Would you describe for the board, please, the applicant's request herein?
Yes, the applicant is requesting a variance of 1 foot from the required 6-foot south side yard setback in order to structurally alter and replace an existing rear sunroom. The existing rear sunroom is currently located 5 feet from the south side property line.
And what zoning ordinance is applicable here?
It is 53.073 subsection C2, which states that residential structures existing as of September 20th, 1956, which are closer to the side property line than 6 feet, may be enlarged, provided any addition is no closer to the side property line than 10% of the lot width at the front yard setback.
And Madam Chairman, we've previously been presented in your packet, the city's exhibits 1 through 7. Mr. Gendusa, would you please describe your exhibits for the board?
Yes, as shown above is the boundary and improvement survey of the existing conditions of the property. The house was built in 1952. Perhaps original, or perhaps at some time a sunroom was constructed sort of on the rear corner of the house. It's considered an existing non-conforming structure onto the building because it is located 5 feet from the south side property line. Here we have photos of the existing non-conforming sunroom structure. The applicant is seeking to replace the sunroom in its current location. Shown above is their site plan, zoomed in to show that the proposed replacement sunroom would be in the same footprint as the existing and would encroach into the required 6-foot setback by 1 foot and would also be located 5 feet from the south side property line. And here we have their preliminary elevation renderings. Staff would suggest certain items of discussion, again, to determine whether there is exceptional narrowness, shallowness, shape, topography, or other extraordinary conditions to the property which are unique. Whether these unique conditions cause a peculiar and exceptional practical difficulty or exceptional undue hardship by not allowing the full extent of the existing sunroom to be altered and replaced. and whether the above factors justify a variance to the full degree of 1 foot requested. And if the matter does not address the above items to the board's satisfaction, staff would recommend the board deny the variance request.
Danny, I have a question. Could you go back to the sketch? Is the existing does the existing sunroom line up with the house?
No, the existing sunroom projects slightly outside of the rest of the rear building or side building line.
And is this existing sunroom on a foundation? So the foundation would extend beyond the house as well?
I'll let the applicant speak to that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
See, they're seeking to reuse the existing foundation of the sunroom.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Gendusa?
No.
Okay, who is here in favor of docket 2352?
I believe our call-in listener is the applicant's contractor. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? I don't have your name in front of me right now, but I know you'd spoken with me earlier today. Mr. Hentz from Patriot Sunroom. Are you on the line?
It looks like he's still muted. I don't know how you unmute when you're call-in.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he, I'm not certain.
I think he can unmute himself.
The same way as everybody else?
I believe so.
Yeah. I mean, I've granted permission to talk on the Zoom platform, but I don't.
Okay.
Were there?
I don't really have any questions for him. I think this is pretty much identical to the last one. But if
Well,
anybody does-
except that this existing sunroom does extend beyond the house, so it
Slightly, but I mean, it's no different than what it is right now, right?
well, true, it's no different than what it is right now.
But if you wanna,
It would be nice to hear why they couldn't scoot it over a foot, you know,
sure.
away from the lot line. That would be the question I would have to them is,
I don't want to make the applicant's case for them, but the text in the renderings is small, but Debbie had asked whether they are using the existing foundation or whether it's built on a foundation, and the notes do indicate that they are seeking to reuse the existing brick wall structure and concrete subfloor of the existing sunroom.
Is there anybody in opposition to this?
Doesn't
Right.
look like we have any other attendees.
Okay,
Well, since we can't figure out how to unmute the call-in caller, does anyone have a problem with going into executive session on this now?
no, I'm fine with it.
Maren, do you have a problem?
No, I don't.
Okay. Then I would close the public comment and move to executive session. BJ, you
So,
wanted to make your point?
yeah, so the only thing I would say is if this is gonna go against them, I would at least table it. I mean, we can have our discussion if we're gonna vote for them, and I think that'd be fine, but they should at least have an option to submit something, whether it be a letter or, you know, whatever, if it goes against them. Does that sound fair?
Well, you know, I tend to agree with some of the other discussion that this is a you know, the the sunroom has been in place for a number of years. It's, this is a sort of an irregularly shaped lot. It's narrower at the front and then moves out. The house is fairly close. I think that the hardship is the existing sunroom and that it's a reasonable request.
And the shape of the lot. If we could just lift the house up and move it over 1 foot the other way, wouldn't be a problem. But if they're
Go ahead.
if they're going on using the same foundation or footing, and they're not trying to get more, I would tend to favor the variance.
Anyone else have any comments?
I agree with Tom.
All right, I will move to accept the variance as written.
All
Second,
in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Tom, would you poll the commission?
I shall. John Burse,
Yes.
BJ Papello,
Aye.
Marion Millum,
Aye.
Deborah Sahlberg,
Yes.
Tom Walsh, yes.
This application has passed. You may see city staff during regular business hours about your next step or options. Do we have any other business for tonight's docket, Danny?
No, the only other business would be, this is John Burse's first meeting. We haven't gotten to meet in person, but I would, John, would you want to tell the rest of the board a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First off, it's a pleasure to meet you all tonight and volunteer on this board. I'm an architect. I've lived in Webster now for about almost 10 years. And prior to that, we lived in the city. We have 2 wonderful daughters that we're raising here in Webster schools. And my wife and I just think the world of Webster. It's been a wonderful home for us.
Welcome aboard.
Hello.
Yeah, well,
Welcome.
Thank you very
Hello.
much for stepping in tonight, John.
My pleasure.
I have a question. Are we going to be back in the council chamber next time?
is this the guy that,
Do we know?
I think we will be, but I actually think the applicant just entered the line, but your variance has already been approved. You can give me a call tomorrow if you'd want. But I do think we'll be back in the chambers eventually. I know that the city council is kind of hoping we can begin meetings in person again. So I think we'll be trying to, and our IT system is getting kind of worked on right now. So we may be able to still do some kind of hybrid model if certain folks are unable to come in or wanting to stay socially distant, but we're trying to get people together as much as possible in person again soon.
excellent.
Hey, and Debbie, I want to apologize. When I went on this, right in the center of my picture is this webinar is being recorded. By continuing to be in the webinar, you are consenting to be recorded. Great. Leave meeting or continue. And I don't have as soon as I came on, my cursor just left. So I
Darn
couldn't
technology.
read anything. So I apologize.
Okay.
I don't know
Well,
what-
no, I understand about technical difficulty.
Yeah, technical difficulty.
Yes. Thank you all. And I'm sorry we were so late getting started, but hopefully that won't happen again. So everybody
Need
have
to
a nice.
officially adjourn?
Yes.
Hey, Chuck,
Let's
is
adjourn.
Chuck still there?
Okay.
All right.
Everybody-
we just have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.